let's start off with a big question. Who is going to win the whole tournament? And just a reminder, when it comes to the World Cup, only a handful of countries have got that honour. Brazil, of course, with 5 titles. Germany with 4. Italy also have 4. Remember, Italy aren't even here. They failed to qualify. Argentina, Uruguay, Spain, France and England make up that very short list. And it's interesting, Craig, when you take a look at the odds to win the tournament this time round, it's a familiar names, isn't it, on that list? Is there any chance that we can have a new winner this year round?
Well, there's a short answer to that, is no. As talented as Belgium are, they're the team. You know, we get into a debate, shall I say, on this show when people say Belgium are a dark horse.
Yeah.
Because how can you be a dark horse, and we've sort of argued about this, when you have such a multi-talented team? The golden generation of Belgian players that have come through, all playing mainly in Europe at top clubs, at top level football. But we saw what they were like for those that remember the Euros. They went out to Wales, they bottled it. Now they're 2 years down the line, more experienced, probably a better side with a better manager than Mark Wilmots. But I still don't see an avenue for a really talented team like Belgium to knock the real big boys off the perch.
How many teams then have a chance?
I would say 5 realistically, but I would add another 2. Uruguay, I think, have got a chance.
Everyone's got a chance.
Yeah, but they've got some good world-class players. Cavani, Suarez, Godin, 3 world-class players in my view.
What about the other 8?
They're decent players.
Yeah,
they've got a manager that gets them well organised. They've got a good unity. I think they've got a chance. They won't win it, but they've got a chance. And the other side is Belgium, because they've got lots of world-class players. Players that have been at top of their game. Eden Hazard, De Bruyne, players like that who can open up defences. I still think they have a problem defensively, and I still think they might have a problem with their manager, who's very good on the attacking side of the game, but doesn't quite get it right defensively.
I agree, but he's certainly better than the manager that was in charge, Mark Wilmots.
It's a bunch of backhanded compliments there, by the way.
I like backhanded compliments.
I like Uruguay. They're not going to win it. Maybe.
But they have a chance.
They have a chance.
Spain, Germany, France and Brazil. Yeah. Is that where the winner's going to come from, those 4?
Yeah, that's it. I don't think it goes to 7. I don't think it goes all the way to Belgium. And then when you consider Argentina, it's a team that is so volatile that they could go out in the group stage or they could go all the way to win this thing and then go through the storyline of Lionel Messi carrying Argentina to the World Cup. But it really is those 4 that you just mentioned, not only because of the talent, it's how they're playing. It's the balance of these teams. It's the ability of these players to be good defensively, but to also have enough offensively to win the sort of games against the big boys. Because, yeah, Belgium is going to cruise through their group, but then you got to step up at a certain level once you get to the quarters and the semis. And I just don't think that Belgium is good enough to do that.
You think about how difficult it is, Dan. Well, it's not been as difficult for some of the countries. You saw some of them have won at 5 and 4 and even 3. But you think about the Spanish in particular. They've got 1 World Cup, which, listen, it's not a bad thing, but think about over the years, decades, how many talented teams and players have come out of Spain, but they still found it difficult to get over that hill. But then they had this little, obviously, generation where they were absolutely fantastic. But they had great teams before, and they'll have great teams again, and they're actually looking not bad this year, but it has been so difficult for them to win.
It's also about the unity of squads. Remember when France went to South Africa, I think it was, and they were fighting. Domenech was the manager. Evra decided to go on a walkabout. If the unity's not right within a group, you can be the best players in the world. You're not going to win the World Cup. And I think Germany is starting to have 1 or 2 problems within their camp.
No better example than the Dutch in 1990, where they had just won the Euros. They come into that tournament as favorites, and they're falling apart all over the place. But you don't feel that that's what's going on with these 4 teams. I don't.
Not Germany. Germany's got 1 or 2 problems at the moment.
I don't see the Germans, once the tournament starts, not being ready to play.
Let's bring Gab Marcotti into the conversation, shall we? Gab will be in Russia throughout the whole tournament. He joins us from Moscow now. Gab, where do you stand on the point that it's really going to be between those top 4 sides?
You know, it's funny because those 4 teams are clearly the most talented teams. If this were a league, you would bet on them to all finish in the Champions League positions. And I appreciate also history tells us that a very small number of countries have actually won the World Cup. But equally, the last 3 World Cups the world decided beyond the 90 minutes. They were all draws in the final. That's how thin the margin is. And logically, you would imagine, and I appreciate it hasn't happened yet, so maybe it means that we're due, but at some point, could maybe what we might call a middle-class team, a Croatia, a Mexico, a Senegal, could one of those teams get out of the group, then maybe you have one game where you get lucky, you have one game that goes to penalties, you have one game where you raise your game somehow, and then suddenly you're in the final, and then anything can happen. To me, it's odd that this hasn't happened in World Cups, whereas, of course, we've seen it happen in Euros with Greece in 2004 and arguably Portugal just 2 years ago.